Have you ever felt like someone was silently watching you even when you were in what seemed like the safest place? In today's video, I will share with you 4 true terrifying stories about chilling and haunting experiences that happened in familiar places like schools, hotels, and public spaces. Get ready, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and step into the world of real fears. Story 1: The Terrifying Shadow. The story of being stalked for years. My brother and I started swimming at a local pool near our house every Friday night. After each lesson, we would sit in the hot tub to relax, waiting for our dad to pick us up. But one night, something made me feel uneasy. I noticed a strange man sitting across from the hot tub, his gaze fixed on me. He was tall, thin, with sunburned skin and short, grey hair spiked like dry tree roots. His small, button-like eyes stared straight at me, and I couldn't look away. At first, I thought maybe he was a regular customer, and perhaps my dad had talked to him a few times, so I tried not to pay too much attention. But the encounters that followed made my skin crawl. He started showing up at the supermarket, the mall, and most terrifyingly outside my school gate. Every time I went to the pool, he was there. It felt like he was following me everywhere. One day, when I was shopping with my mum, I saw him standing at the end of every aisle we walked down, always holding a big camera. His presence made me tense, my heart racing, and I began to realize this wasn't just a coincidence. One of my sister's friends advised me to report him to security. The next time we saw security approaching him, he quickly stood up and left. That was the first time I felt a little safe, but it also marked the beginning of an even more intense obsession. 2 years later, I thought I'd forgotten about him, until one day I was called to the principal's office. There he was standing with his arms wide open, smiling at me, saying he was my uncle come to pick me up. My heart stopped. It was him, the man with the cold stare. Without hesitation, I walked right past him and told the receptionist, "This man is not my uncle." I returned to class, leaving the man with a disappointed look behind me. In the following weeks, he continued showing up around the school, trying to coax me with small gifts, like chocolate bars, with his fake smile and watchful eyes. Every time I saw him, I felt my heart tighten, my body trembling. Concerned for my safety, the school contacted my parents. They called the police and requested a restraining order against the man. When the police seized his camera, they discovered hundreds of photos of me, many taken secretly through the window of my bedroom from different angles, and at various times even while I was sound asleep. He was arrested shortly afterward. My life slowly returned to normal, but the fear and panic from the past remained as a shadow that followed me for many years. Every time I spot a shadowy figure lurking somewhere, I can't help but remember the cold eyes of that man's eyes that seemed to know the dark secrets I never wanted to speak of again. This isn't just a story about being stalked. It's a story of a little girl's bravery in the face of evil, a reminder for all of us to always stay vigilant and protect ourselves from the hidden dangers out there. If you've ever experienced something similar, don't hesitate to share your story. Because in the dark, sometimes sharing is the light that guides the way. Story 2: The Terrifying Intrusion. Night: A Meeting with a Madman. I'm a pretty big guy, having played football, so I rarely worried about being harmed by anyone. Back then, I lived in Arizona, in a quiet neighborhood with 2 roommates. Everything seemed perfect until one fateful night. It was around midnight after a long business trip. I came home tired and just wanted to sleep deeply. I knew I was a heavy sleeper, so I rarely got woken up. But that night around 3 a.m, I heard loud banging on my door, as if someone was trying to break it down. The noise was so strong that I woke up, my heart racing. I thought maybe my roommates had forgotten their keys and had come home late. But when I walked to the door and looked through the peephole, I saw a young woman standing there, her appearance dishevelled, wearing an oversized shirt and a beanie, even though it was hot outside. She looked like she was being chased, frantic and panicked. I was about to open the door to check on her, but then she suddenly burst into a chilling laugh, sending a shiver down my spine, and I immediately froze. "Let me in! I need to use the bathroom," she shouted, her voice trembling as she begged through the door. I stood still, not saying a word, silently watching her through the peephole. Then she turned and ran down the street like a child, leaving me standing there with my spine frozen in fear. I thought maybe she was just hallucinating or on drugs, so I went back to my room intending to sleep again. But less than half an hour later, the banging on the door returned louder, this time making my skin crawl. This time, through the peephole, I saw a small, thin man dressed just like the woman from before, standing there with her jumping up and down, laughing maniacally. "Let us in. She needs to use the bathroom," he said, his voice whiny and pleading. At this point, I started to feel real fear. I grabbed a kitchen knife and hid in the closet, a place I thought I could defend myself if they broke in. 2 hours passed in deadly silence, and I was getting exhausted, eventually dozing off in the closet, still clutching the knife. Suddenly, the banging on the door turned into banging on the window. My room was on the first floor, facing the backyard. I quietly peered through the curtains and saw the woman staring at my room, not directly at me, but silently tapping on the window, as if trying to drive me mad. In the distance, I saw the naked man jumping in my pool. I screamed, trying to scare them off, and the woman's gaze immediately shifted toward me. Her smile wasn't like any normal smile, but a crazy, malicious grin. I immediately called the police, reporting that 2 suspicious people had broken into my house, and I was being threatened. I locked myself in the bathroom, holding the knife ready to defend myself. The police arrived shortly afterward, but by the time they got there, both had vanished without a trace. The next day, flyer appeared around the neighborhood. Over the past few nights, 6 houses had been broken into, and 4 dogs had been brutally attacked. People were warned to be cautious of strangers in the area. After that terrifying night, I installed a security system, bought a gun for protection, and slept better. But the creepy smile of the woman and the image of the man jumping in the pool still haunt me in my dreams. It was a hard lesson learned: never ignore the warning signs from your instincts. And sometimes the darkness is not just a quiet void, it's a place where the deepest fears hide. Story 3. The Haunting in the Old Attic. The Mystery of the Strange Photos. When I was 15 years old, after the sudden death of my beloved uncle, my father and I were tasked with cleaning up his house. My uncle was a kind, friendly man, beloved by everyone in the neighborhood. Whenever I think of my childhood, I picture those carefree days spent playing with him, never imagining that his house hid a secret that would send chills down our spines. My uncle's house was in a quiet neighborhood, carefully maintained by him. I However, he always emphasized to me and my cousins that we were never to go up to the attic, a place he considered dangerous. Every time he went up there, he would stay for about 30 minutes, never bringing anything down or offering any explanation. While cleaning, my curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to climb up to the attic to investigate. The place was deserted, dusty, with everything covered in a thick layer of grime, except for two old boxes placed in the corner of the room. I brought them down and opened them eagerly, hoping to find valuable documents or family mementos. But what I saw made my heart stop. Hundreds of covert photos of three different women, one of whom was my uncle's wife, who had passed away many years ago. These weren't ordinary photos. They were taken from different angles, both day and night, and some even captured the women working in the house, or walking around unaware that they were being watched. Looking closer, I saw some photos that were even more disturbing. Some of the women were naked. On the back of each photo were names and dates. I was horrified and confused, unable to understand why my uncle had kept such pictures. I searched for information about the other two women, and fortunately they were still alive and well. I showed the photos to my father, who was just as shocked. He gathered the courage to take the boxes elsewhere and never spoke of them again. Every time I think back, I can't shake the eerie feeling, wondering if my uncle was the one taking these pictures, or if someone else had done it and he kept it a secret. One thing is certain, that quiet house had hidden a mystery that made my entire family shudder. Story 4. The Ghost Behind the Mask. A terrifying night at the hotel. When I was in middle school, my family went on a trip to a large hotel spread across several small buildings situated in a quiet suburban area. One evening, while my parents and relatives went to a cafe in the main lobby, my cousin and I decided to go down to the basement pool to pass the time. At first, everything seemed normal. We were laughing, swimming, and telling each other stories. But I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling when I noticed a man, probably in his 20s, sitting in a corner of the pool with his eyes fixed on us. He had a cold face, a fake smile, and his gaze was so sharp that it made my skin crawl. I tried not to pay attention, but his presence made the atmosphere heavy and terrifying. My cousin, who was more experienced than me, quickly realized the danger in his stare. She quietly told me not to pay attention to him, and jokingly said he was my new boyfriend. But her voice had a note of worry, making me understand that things were not as simple as they seemed. After a while, he stood up and started following us discreetly. Both of us began to speed up, trying to escape his gaze. We planned to go upstairs and call our parents, but he quickly followed us, keeping close behind. Running down the long hallway, I could hear his hurried footsteps and my own heavy breathing. My heart felt like it was about to leap out of my chest, my mind racing with pure fear. Luckily, when we got near the door to our room, he stopped and stood at the end of the hallway, smiling with a knowing grin as if daring us. We quickly locked the door and drew the curtains. That night, we heard him standing outside our window, gently tapping and laughing eerily like an uninvited ghost. The sound of his laughter haunted me for days afterward. The next day, my parents discovered many strange messages from an unknown number, with threats and words like, "We'll meet again soon," "You two girls," which made everyone anxious. The hotel reported the incident to the police, but despite a search, they couldn't find the man's whereabouts. Everyone became more cautious when travelling for leisure after that. This terrifying experience serves as a reminder that darkness can lurk anywhere, even in places that seem safe. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed these chilling stories, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next videos. And if you've ever had a terrifying experience, feel free to share it with us in the comments. See you in the next stories where darkness is always lurking. On what?